I am AP Townley, also known as Ringcross, and welcome to Roleplay Culture. There are three components to a D&D character. Their lineage, which is what they are, their class, which is what they do, and finally, there's their background, which is what they used to do before they became an adventurer. And is it just me, or are backgrounds in 5th edition kind of boring? Yeah, I said it. Backgrounds, as presented in the core rulebooks, are boring. Think about the character you might be playing right now. Do you remember what background you chose for that character? And if you do, did you choose that background for anything other than the skills it gave you? What about the rest of the people at your table? Do they, or you, even remember the feature that the background gives you? Do you even make use of it? I'm betting a lot of the answers to these questions is no. And you would be forgiven for that, because the backgrounds presented in 5e are a bit vague and, frankly, not very inspiring. For example, let's look at the Outlander. A perfectly vague title if there ever was one. It includes athletics and survival as skills, which are both pretty appropriate. Then they get proficiency with a musical instrument and a language, which seems to make no sense for someone living out in the middle of nowhere, right? You get to choose an origin, which is basically letting you choose what kind of Outlander you want to be from a list that includes options such as homesteader or bounty hunter, because, those two things are alike. You get a feature called Wanderer that basically means you vaguely don't get lost and can supply your party with food and water. It's not bad, it's just a bit uninteresting, uninspired. I mean, can't we just be a farm boy / girl who heard one too many tales of adventure at the local inn and decided to run off and slay dragons? I mean, what could go wrong with that? Yeesh. Sorry I asked. But anyway, I think we can do better, and we'll make our own background. Strictly speaking, you can do this normally by choosing your own proficiencies and combining them with background's existing features. But again, that's really, really boring, so let's not do that. So what background do we want to create? Well, I think we can take inspiration from the previous origin list, the Trapper. That sounds pretty interesting and suitable starting point for an adventurer. Here's an interesting fact. In the late 17th century, the Hudson Bay fur trading in North America was full of lucrative opportunities. But most of the trading of beavers and trappings of other animals was actually done by Native Americans and sold to the colonials, usually for weapons or gunpowder. So that could be cool. A native to the land in the wilds who is used to interacting with foreign cultures, whether they be friendly customers or hostile oppressors. This sounds like an adventure if there ever was one. After a little research, we find that the Cree Nation was one of the most prominent around the Hudson Bay. And diving a little deeper and fumbling around with a translator a bit, and we find a Cree word that roughly translates to hunter or trapper. The Onocihcikew, I know, it's a bit hard to say. It's this word. So where do we start? Well, first, every background gives 2 skill proficiencies. Let's go with survival to start. Because tracking prey, surviving in the wilds, yeah, that's a no-brainer. There are a couple of good options for the next skill, but if we look at our source material and realize that the Cree are really good at sneaking up on both prey and enemies alike, then stealth is the clear choice. Sneaking through the woods, living off the land, and trapping beavers for their pelts to sell to stupid foreigners, to buy better weapons so that you can use said weapons against those same foreigners and kick them off your people's lands. Yeah, that sounds about right. Now we choose a combination of language tool, vehicle, or gaming set proficiencies. Those sorts of things. We get 2 of them. For this Cree Hudson Bay inspired build, water vehicles is probably the most appropriate with lakes and rivers around the area. But that could change based on the campaign and the actual setting, so check with your DM first. As a side note, canoes do exist in D&D. You'll find their statistics in the Tomb of Annihilation adventure. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel, so keep that in mind. Next, we'll give them the pièce de résistance, the Trapper's Kit. Wait, there isn't a Trapper's Kit? But there is a trap. Oh, but it's a basic bear trap. I mean, that's fine, but it lacks nuance or creativity. I mean, traps are so varied. There's snares and body grips and footholds. All kinds of styles of traps. It really needs a kit. Well, maybe we'll design another in another episode. You can always throw a language onto this as a placeholder. I don't usually like giving extra languages to characters who spend all their time in the woods away from people. But these guys would be trading what they catch, so it makes sense. They'll come into contact with plenty of others. So next, we need their equipment. Yeah, let's throw that bear trap in there. It feels weird not to. It'll be useful. A set of traveler's clothes. Yeah, that makes sense. We'll put in that trapper's kit that doesn't exist yet. A wooden totem. More on that later. A smoking pipe. Yes, it's a peace pipe. And finally, 3 5 gold piece gems in a pouch. I don't think this character would actually start with hard currency. Most backgrounds have some kind of choice you have to roll to differentiate you from others of the same background. Like the Outlander rolling the homesteader instead of the bounty hunter. For the Onocihcikew, we'll choose a spirit totem, or Powhatan. There are no mechanical bonuses, but who doesn't feel better with a little totem of Mother Bear or Brother Hawk watching over them? Next, we'll need the feature. Some ability to give to this character that emphasizes how being a trapper can still affect their lives in the present as an adventurer. Features don't usually give solid mechanical bonuses. They're meant more for enhancing roleplay, as well as grounding the character in the world. Most Cree nations, along with other Native Americans, were known for not wasting anything and having deep respect for the land that provided for them. So this feature will focus on that. You will use all parts of the beast and be able to make tools, clothes, tents, and anything else you can convince your DM as possible from that velociraptor you killed. You'll also know how to fashion a canoe and even a kayak. That last piece of equipment doesn't actually exist yet. Maybe we'll make that another episode, along with that trapper's kit. We'll call this feature Apata Yemu, which means for someone to have use for something or faith in it. Finally, we get to the suggested characteristics. Those are personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws. We won't come up with all of those options right now, so here's a list of each that I came up with. Personality traits emphasize how your character acts, such as, I feel the eyes of my ancestors judging every step I make. The spirit ancestors are important for our Cree inspired trapper. For the ideal, we'll go with honor. My duty keeps me from home for many days, but I provide for my people, and that is what's most important. Lawful. Remember, ideals are something that a character strives for, aspires to. They'll usually start with a word or a short phrase that really hits home for that ideal. Honor will be the word here. Short and sweet. The ideal usually ends with a partial alignment suggestion that pairs well with the ideal. Bonds are things, places, peoples, etc. that are important to the character and ground them to the story. How about there's nothing more important than the tribe? It must survive. What better reason than going on an adventure to defeat something threatening the tribe? And finally, we have flaws, which are, in my opinion, the most important of the characteristics. A character is only as interesting as the flaws that hold them back. The land is harsh and allows no weakness. I leave the weak to die. That could create some interesting drama between party members, and it's an excellent story point for a character to overcome. These are just some suggestions, and there are a million ways to reimagine this specific idea. Well, I hope you enjoyed the Onocihcikew and that we have designed together. If you want more of this sort of thing, or if you want to create a trapper's kit and the kayak with me, then you'll have to subscribe, smash the like button, share the video, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the parlor.